Hi, this is Les-Levine, the self-proclaimed voice of truth and reason in Ohio sports. It's interesting. We can do a show about the Cleveland Browns, and we do, in March or April, with them coming off a 6-10 season, and you fans will keep it going 24/7. Most of you dislike the owners of the team, and the jury is out this year on the coach and the general manager. But most of you think, despite what you say about Paul Dolan, it's the Indians owner that's the best in town, so is the GM, and clearly so is the manager. And when we ask what sport you're going to miss most during the shutdown, the answer is almost unanimous: baseball. But there's no way we can do a full baseball show in January, February, or March. You might not want to admit it, but deep down inside, this still could be a baseball town, at least a little bit. Dan-Labbe is here, so we'll talk some football. More Sports and Les-Levine is on the air. From the worldwide headquarters of More Sports and Les-Levine, it's a Tuesday night. Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to More Sports and Les-Levine into its 24th consecutive year, seen exclusively on cleveland.com. Dan-Labbe from cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer is with us. Dan, I don't know if you heard the opening comment, but we're going to talk some football, despite the fact everybody seems to be missing baseball right now.
Yeah, people are always up for talking football, but I think you're right. It would be hard to do an hour-long baseball show. I wonder how many people would tune in for that. 3,
maybe 4. All right, but you're here.
They would be 3. They'd be very happy 3 or 4.
Yeah. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. Dan-Labbe does a great job on cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. The NFL owners approved their playoff expansion from 12 to 14, 7 in each division. You okay with that?
I am, and I'm usually opposed to expanding playoffs too much, but I really like the idea of only having one team get a bye. I think it makes that race for the 1 seed really interesting. And it's not an excessive expansion. It's just adding one other team in each conference. So I don't think it waters things down too much, but it's really that race for the number 1 seed that gets me excited about it.
No, but it's interesting when baseball, I'll bring baseball up at this point, when baseball comes in and adds an additional wildcard team, there are some people who weren't going to accept that as actually making the playoffs. If you got by that and then got to the next round, people would say that it's not really the playoffs. But I think in the Browns' situation since 1999, or since they came back in '99, I think if they made everybody eligible for the playoffs, the Browns fans would be okay with that.
Yeah, if you put all 32 in and it meant the Browns qualified, they would print playoff shirts and sell out every game for whatever that 32-team playoff would look like.
All right, so what does this mean now? Because there's nothing definitive, I don't think, about what it does for the exhibition season or amount of games, or have you heard something about that?
As of right now, I think the plan is still to have 4 preseason games and full 16-game schedule around this. I would think that the exhibition season would get shortened if they went to a 17th game. Then the players' union would say, look, we need 1 less game in the preseason at least. I think they have too many preseason games as it is to begin with, but I don't think this playoff format is going to have anything to do with the preseason.
No, obviously the exhibition season just a money grab for the owners, and it's also going to be interesting what the television contracts will be coming off whatever happens here the rest of the summer as far as the virus is concerned. But I would assume there's going to be an awful lot more money coming in from the playoffs to the owners.
I think this really helps, and this will help with that TV contract, like you mentioned. I mean, you're going to have 3 games now on Saturday and 3 games on Sunday on Wild Card Weekend. Maybe this opens up the possibility for a Monday night playoff game. I don't know. You'd have a short week in that case, but this opens up a lot of possibilities in that TV contract and a lot of carrots that the NFL can kind of hold out there for NBC, CBS, Fox, ESPN, whoever.
You made a point there that could be 3 playoff games on a specific day, but more importantly than that, it keeps more teams in longer into maybe week 14, 15, and 16, so the ratings on that will go up also.
Yeah, and I think it reduces maybe the possibility as teams are starting to maybe I don't want to say tank, but they seem to be okay with losing sometimes if they're
Right.
sort of in that middle and they don't mind giving up talent. Maybe this entices them to say, hey, you know what? We don't need to go 10-6 to make the playoffs. We can go 8-8 and get in the postseason and have a chance to win the Super Bowl.
Everybody's still in it almost all the way. We haven't talked about this yet, but you got the draft coming up shortly. There was a proposal of maybe shortening it to maybe 4 or 5 rounds and after that making everybody free agents as far as the draft, college free agents. Have you heard anything about that and what they're going to do different, if anything, as far as the actual draft is concerned?
I haven't, and I think it would be hard to change the draft. I think teams really value those, 6th round, 7th round picks, even though the hit rate on those isn't all that high. I think teams value that opportunity to draft players instead of get into this free agency pool and have to convince them to come play for you. You can just draft a guy and say, hey, you've got to show up next weekend for rookie minicamp, and you don't have to do any negotiating or anything like that.
All right, the calendar is taking us into April. It's almost like a huge April Fool situation, but you know what that means? You know who's back? Colin-Cowherd.
Oh, boy.
You know what he said today about the Browns?
I'm going to let you tell me.
Okay, I'm going to tell you then. Colin-Cowherd's back. It's low-hanging fruit. He says, this is on Colin-Cowherd's show, and he said, once again, Cleveland has a golden opportunity this year, and I think they'll underachieve. When you look at the talented rosters in the NFL and say to myself, well, I think the Cleveland's like 6th or 7th, but they're the only one out of that group that I think is just not going to win. Do you think he's taking advantage of what he did last year with Baker-Mayfield and got some higher ratings or at least some notoriety? Do you think he said, hey, I'm not done with the Cleveland tree here yet?
I think he understands that when you say something about Cleveland and you say something about the Browns, it's going to take off on social media. And Cleveland fans and Browns fans really feel the need to defend themselves. I don't know how good the Browns are going to be this year because especially with the shortened offseason or maybe no offseason program, it's going to put them behind the 8 ball learning a new system. I think they still need to grow a little bit, but I still think this is a team that can win 8 games. And if things go right, that's when you start talking about maybe 9 wins or even 10 wins, even though I wouldn't predict that.
Well, what are you going to predict? It's too early.
Right now, I can. All right. You know what, though? I'm going to say 9-7.
9-7. That's okay.
With an asterisk. Don't hold me to that.
Yeah. Do you think? I think we talked about this last time you were on, that when Kevin-Stefanski comes in and they look at, he and his coaching staff look at all the games and all the plays and everything, and they got to say a couple of things. Number one, this team is not a 6-10 team. This team, if you just coached them up a little bit, that add another win or two, and then get some right people in the right place, and now you're talking even better than that. Do you think that Stefanski's probably much more positive about what he sees now than when he actually got the job? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think he is. And the other thing, too, is you kind of look back at some of those early games in the margins, right? Maybe some better play calling helps them beat the Rams. So now you're a 7-win team. You know, you go to the end of the year when they kind of were giving up on Freddie Kitchens and they lose in Arizona and then they lose that finale in Cincinnati. You can find a couple of games here and there that if they just go the other way or 1 or 2 plays goes another way, you're not a 6-win team. You're an 8 or 9-win team.
Yeah, that's what the NFL is all about. And as I mentioned earlier, when you get into add an additional playoff team, everybody's in it till they think they're going to be in it till week 14 or 15, which will make higher ratings, which make more fun watching.
And make more money for everyone involved.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that part. Dan-Labbe with us.
Except for us.
From cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. If you have questions for him, it's 216-575-0403. Did you know the Ohio Lottery has paid out over $1 billion in winnings over the last 6 months? People are winning in record numbers, and winning is happening all around the state of Ohio. Play an Ohio Lottery game and play it today. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/more-sports-and-les-levine with new content posted each and every day. We post the questions, you come up with a response, and we read it on the air from 6 until 7. We'll take a break. We'll come on back in a moment. More Sports and Les-Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a four-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Let's take a look at the birthdays for March 31st, 2020. Don Barksdale, born on this date. Gordie Howe, one of the all-time great hockey players, seen on the left. His two sons played in the NHL. Jimmy Johnson, this is not the coach. This is the defensive back. BLT, so we tried to sandwich her in here, from 1947. DeAndre Liggins and Sammy Coates, all born on this day, March 31st. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. Dan-Labbe with us, cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. Dan, we put you to work. We asked you to check out four things, now that we're done with the first part of free agency, four things still facing the Browns. And you came up, let's start with number one. Is Mack-Wilson the answer at the middle, in the middle at linebacker? What concerns you about that, or what helps you about that?
I wouldn't say I'm concerned about it. It's just really, this is a guy who's going into his second season. We don't know if he can handle being that green sticker guy that's making the calls and takes over all the things Joe Schobert did. I think there's potential there in Mack-Wilson. I think he's athletic. I think he was a really good find in the 5th round, but there's also a reason that he was in the 5th round and wasn't taken a little bit higher. So we'll see if Mack-Wilson can make the progress he needs, because right now it doesn't seem like the Browns have a big time answer to put in that middle linebacker position. Right, see how the draft plays out, but if you go tackle at 10 and then safety in the 2nd round, you're running out of picks to maybe pick a big time linebacker.
82 tackles, 2 tackles for loss last year, a sack, an interception, and a fumble forced. 944 defensive snaps for the 2019 season. He also has a great football name, doesn't he? Mack-Wilson.
Oh, it's fantastic. Between him and Sione-Takitaki, if those two can become your starting linebackers, you've got the best linebacker names in football.
Right. Well, hopefully they can play. I always thought Dick Butkus was the best linebacker name. All right, so Mack-Wilson is your first question. You had a second question, and that has to do with the defensive backfield, in particular the safeties. You want to know if the safety room is tightened up right now, or is it open to make additions? What do you think?
I think the safety room is still wide open, and that's really the question the Browns have to answer. They signed karl-joseph, who is, I think he's going to be 27 when the season starts. So he's got some time to maybe, still grow and earn a long-term contract. But Andrew-sendejo is a veteran. He's kind of a stopgap. You don't know who JT Hassel is. You don't know who Sheldrick Redwine is. And both of those guys were brought in by the previous regime. So I think this is an area to really keep an eye on that 2nd-round pick. And I saw a mock today where it had the Browns taking the safety from LSU with their 2nd-round pick.
All right, so they're very young, very inexperienced right now. You got to believe they're going to add. If it's not somebody in that 2nd round, there's got to be a free agent or two out there still. Maybe not as good as the first crop, but somebody. You can't go in with that particular group of 4, I don't think.
No, you've got to add competition, and it could be a 2nd or 3rd level free agent who you bring in and take a flyer on and let him compete during training camp and see if he can work his way in during the season. But I still think this is an area where you're going to stack on top of the 2 veterans you signed. You're going to try and stack a rookie who can maybe come in and take a job.
All right, what about Vernon? Is he going to wind up on this squad when it's all said and done?
The longer we go, the longer it seems to trend that way. And I think the problem the Browns face is, okay, if you cut Olivier Vernon, obviously you can save some money, but who's going to be your other defensive end? They need a lot of pass rushers. We'll kind of see the domino that needs to fall is Jadeveon Clowney. And if he ends up back in Seattle, then maybe that opens up where's Everson Griffin going to go? And I think we're still just waiting for some of these dominoes to fall before the Browns make a decision on Vernon.
All right, but they don't have to have a domino fall to sign somebody who's still sitting out there looking for a team. I mean, they may get into a position where they have to take whatever's out there.
Yeah, and of course, this is, again, we're starting to give away draft picks here, but this is where the Browns could address this in the draft. But, now you're looking at the third round, the fourth round. So what kind of value are going to get there? Those are more depth type players. So if they want a big time defensive end, they might need to call up an Everson Griffin or just kind of suck it up and pay Olivier Vernon for another year.
Yeah, well, you've got, everybody's got the same problem, getting in late, trying to work new people in. In the Browns' case, they're not only working new people in with their teammates, they're working new people in with the coaching staff. And you've got the position players and position coaches, and then you've got the defense as a whole here. That, I see this with all teams having that problem, but especially the Browns.
Yeah, it's an issue because they have to do installs, and your offseason program is when you're going to install things on both sides of the ball, and they've got to do that all over the place with this team. The only guy they brought back was Mike Prefer, the special teams coach, and that's all sort of uniform across the league in a lot of ways, I think. What you have to wonder is, when is this all going to be able to happen? Because it really feels like it's going to be hard to get any sort of offseason program going, and the reality is, when are you going to be allowed to get 90 guys in a room together for meetings and things like that? This is going to be a really challenging time for a new coaching staff.
All right, so of the four we have listed, Joseph, Sendejo, Hassel, and Redwine, Joseph makes the team, Sendejo makes the team. The other two are on the bubble here?
Yeah, and I think Redwine probably has the best chance to maybe make the team again. He's a guy from Miami. He was not a high draft pick, but he was taken at a spot where you'd want to take a look at him and see what he can do. And he did play a little bit last year. Hassel was on the practice squad to start the year, got promoted at the end of the year. I think he's got a chance to maybe put himself on the practice squad again at the very least. But I think Redwine of those two is the guy that would most likely make the roster. But that's, again, still a long ways away. It
is a long way away, but it also concerns me that just how you're going to mesh these guys together is a concern. And just to say, well, every team's got that problem, I'm not sure that that's the right answer. But I also don't know what else they can do here at this point.
Yeah, there are teams that don't have that problem, right? Because there's guys that have been playing together and know each other well, and the Browns don't have that luxury. So it's going to be really challenging for this football team to get ready. And the safety position, you like those guys to sort of be on the same page.
All right, you had 4 questions, 2 of them defensively. That we took care of that. When we get back, we'll talk offense. Got to be more questions on the defense than the offense, but we'll check that out when we get back. We'll talk about wide receivers and the offensive line. Everybody knows everybody's changing daily as far as Northeast Factory Direct is concerned. Everybody's trying to pick up what they can while they can and try to figure it out. And Alex is and everybody at Northeast Factory Direct is doing just that. They're open for essential business, taking extra precaution to keep you safe. And many people are calling Alex, the owner, wanting or needing mattresses, lift chairs, and living room furniture, and more while they're still home more than ever. Alex is in this surprised me. Alex is in every store every day, and he's looking to talk to you, any potential customer. Just go up to him or ask for him, and he'll talk to you. In fact, he'll give you, I'll give it to you, his personal cell phone. 216-288-1808. 216-288-1808 is the number you can call. You can shop online at northeastfactorydirect.com or go to the 3 locations, east, west, and south, as you see right there. West 140th Street, Lakeland Boulevard, and of course the new one in Macedonia. We'll come back in a moment. More Sports and Les-Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Celebrate Naturestone's 30-year anniversary with a free Naturestone floor. During 2020, we will be giving away 30 free floors to 30 very lucky customers to say thank you for making Naturestone the best concrete flooring solution for garages, basements, and more. Call or visit naturestone.com today to register to win, and we'll send you a copy of our new buyer's guide absolutely free. There's no purchase necessary. Winners will be chosen monthly. With over 30 million square feet installed for more than 60,000 customers, it's easy to see why I always say it's not just a floor. Wow, it's Naturestone.
Got your Ohio Lottery pick 3, I see.
Yup. Those glasses are hip.
Hip? Most people think I'm a square. But what's wrong with that? A box bet can increase your chances of winning. And what is a box? A square. There are so many ways to play. There's coming out the wazoo. Oh, shucks. Look at me yammering on. Put a lid in it, Picky Ricky. Play the Ohio Lottery Pick 3 today.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Time for a How Come Quickie. How come if 2 is company and 3 is a crowd, 4 and 5 is 9? Kids love that. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. Oh, Dan, I hear a little snicker there.
Well, a good math joke.
Nobody can pass up a good math joke. Dan-labbe is with us, cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. Coming up tomorrow, D-Man Dennis Maniloff will join us. And Thursday night, B.A. Brian Anderson, who should be calling Tampa Bay Ray games right now, but unfortunately that is all on hold. But B.A. is a great guest, and we'll see him on Thursday night. Monday, it'll be Ken Carman from Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima on 92.3 The Fan. So that's what the lineup is for the next week or so. All right, Dan-labbe came up with 4 questions. We took care of the first 2. That was defense. Let's take a look at your third question, and it has to do with the wide receiving situation. Assuming Beckham and Landry are healthy, and that's the tough assumption here, and assuming they'll get the whole season in. Right now, if you lined up everybody and you said who's the third receiver, you would probably say Kareem-Hunt. That shouldn't be part. He does a lot of things. That probably should not be one of them.
See, and I kind of feel like maybe that's just how we should talk about Kareem Hunt. Obviously, he is a running back, but he's sort of a do-everything type of player. You already have Nick Chubb, who's going to need a lot of carries. You can see on the graphic there, Kareem Hunt was the 3rd leading receiver in yardage in just 8 games. So this is a guy that can do that sort of thing. Now, you'd like to have somebody on your roster that is actually a wide receiver by trade and can play that position, but if you're going to have multiple tight ends on the field, and Nick Chubb and a fullback, you start to run out of spots to put a 3rd wide receiver. So, maybe that's sort of how we need to start talking about Kareem Hunt a little bit.
I think the Browns at the owners' meeting should have campaigned a little bit to get a second ball on the field. So you got enough guys to spread it around.
Yeah, they've got lots of guys that they're going to try and get it to. Or if it were up to Kevin-Stefanski, you get 2 extra spots for tight ends, right. Something like that.
All right. But this doesn't even include injuries, and you're dealing with an injury potential if you've got Landry, although Landry had been healthy for the most part in his career, but at Beckham and Landry. So we're assuming just by this thing about Kareem Hunt as the third wide receiver, that's assuming everybody stays healthy, and that's not a good assumption.
Yeah, that's never a good assumption. And now we're starting to see Jarvis-Landry and Odell-Beckham, who both had surgeries. This is really kind of the first time Jarvis-Landry has had to go through something like this. He's played a lot of snaps. He plays very physical. His brand of football he's still young and he's still got mileage left, but his brand of football does lend itself to maybe that body starting to break down. That's something to keep an eye on as he nears 30 years old here coming up. This is a guy who has played a lot, plays tough, plays physical, doesn't back down from any of that. This is football. Guys get hurt. Even the most healthy guys sometimes get hurt.
Sure. When you talk about Kareem-Hunt as a wide receiver, when you speculate how that's going to look, do you see him as a slot guy, or do you see him as a guy who actually lines up as a wide receiver?
The thing that really stood out to me last year when he was in training camp, and then when the Browns were finally able to use him in the second half, is he could do both. And he did both in Kansas City, too. He can line up in the slot, but you can put him out wide. And if you get the right matchup, if a linebacker has to follow him out there, he can do some things from that position. So that's why I think, first of all, he's just a better player than Duke Johnson was, but I think he even offers more versatility than Duke Johnson did when he was here, because he can literally play all over the field and be effective at it.
Are there any guys on the roster or practice squad that you foresee maybe stepping in at one of the wide receiver spots? Or will that be addressed in the draft?
You could try to address it late in the draft, but I think, I guess one name to keep an eye on would be a guy like Hodge, who's mostly a special teamer, but he got some time at receiver last year and he made a couple plays and a couple catches. He's maybe a guy to keep an eye on. That's one name on the roster. And, we'll kind of see if they look into some of these second-level free agents, second or third-tier free agents to fill that spot too.
Dan-labbe is here. He asked 4 questions that are unsolved at this point. So the fourth one has to do with the offensive guard situation. Who is the right guard? There's a couple of options with free agents. Earl Watford is one, and I don't know what you think about him or what the Browns think about him, but is that somebody, as you see, he's 29 years old, 6 NFL seasons. My guy Brian in the back room says he was with the Browns. I'll be honest, I don't remember that. Do you?
He was with the Browns. I don't remember. It was not very long, but he did sign with the Browns. I think he was like the backup center technically at the time.
All right, so there you see the word on him. So it's not one that stands out at this moment. You also have another free agent in Michael Schofield. Michael Schofield, here are his credentials. We'll take a look. He's 29 years old, 6 NFL seasons with the Broncos and the Chargers. Last year, 1 penalty, 1 sack allowed, and that was with the Chargers last year. But he's played both right tackle and right guard, which kind of helps the versatility. What do we know about him?
Well, you like that versatility that you can maybe bring him in and let him compete. And if he doesn't get the job, you keep him around as a guy that can slide out to tackle, a guy that can play both guard positions. I do wonder if this is an area where the Browns might address it internally. Maybe they let Wyatt Teller have a shot at it again. Drew Forbes kind of lost his rookie season because he got hurt so early, and it's really hard for a rookie when he's got to step up and try and get in play. So I think the Browns have some internal options here as well, but they could decide to address this in free agency, especially, again, if they're going to take a tackle at 10. That's going to save them a little money because his contract is cost controlled.
In a ideal situation for the Browns, and if they don't go up or down in that number 10 spot, what do you think? What position do you think is the one they got to go for, or do they wait and see what happens with the linebacker situation, or who gets taken and what's left? If the linebacker from Clemson is available, you almost have to take him, don't you?
That's the big wrinkle. If for some reason he falls to number 10, and I don't know that it'll happen, but I think other than that, you'd have to take a tackle at 10. I don't know that, taking one of the top wide receivers is really valuable for this team right there. I think you have to address this left tackle situation and get it fixed. You've made this big commitment to building this offense the way Kevin-Stefanski wants it, to make Baker-Mayfield better, and you've got to protect him. And I think left tackle, with the depth of this class, you've got to address that at number 10.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. Dan-labbe with us from cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. You can explore your interests and find a program that puts you on a path to a bright future from Tri-C. They offer more than 1,000 courses and over 150 career and technical programs. Go to tri-c.edu for more information. We'll come back. Rashard-Higgins still a free agent. Do the Browns want him? Who else can help out in that wide receiver core? Dan-labbe will tell us. More Sports and Les-Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a four-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant, whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smiley1.com.
Let's take a look at this day in sports history. 1976, Cleveland Cavaliers defeat the New Orleans Jazz 110-101 on the road to clinch the club's first ever playoff berth. How about that? 216-575-0403 is the number to call. They'd missed out by a game the year before and finally nailed it down. That's not bad when you think about it in just 5 years of activity. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. Dan-Labbe with us, cleveland.com. And the plain dealer. I mentioned before the break, Dan, Rashard-Higgins still a free agent. He's been with the Browns the last 3 seasons. What do you think? Can they, of course, it's a new regime, but do you think they'd take an extra look or two at Rashard-Higgins?
I think it's still on the table, possibly, but the fact that he's still out there and they haven't just brought him back is telling. This is a guy that Andrew Berry was involved in drafting him back in 2016, so he's got that going for him, but last year was a really difficult year for him. Ended up in Freddie Kitchen's doghouse. Couldn't really get on the field. He did score the game-winning touchdown against Buffalo. That was kind of his moment, one of his 4 catches from last year.
Right.
This is a guy that's coming off a really disappointing year.
Well,
and I just think the Browns are going to keep their options open.
How about the first year he had 50 targets, an awful lot for a player like that. Then I think he got down, what did it get down to last year, 4? Just 4?
Yeah, it was not a very high number, and again, just the 1 touchdown too.
Right. 2017, 27 receptions, 312 yards, couple of TDs, 50 targets. Next year he had 53 targets, 39 catches, 572 yardage, and last year 4 receptions and 55 yards, and he had just 11 targets on that, kind of overshadowed by what the Browns had going. Well, but you mentioned he was in Freddie's doghouse. Freddie, you may not know this, but Freddie's not here anymore.
That's true. He's not here anymore. But the problem is for Rashard.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but the problem for Rashard-Higgins is even though this front office knows him really well, Kevin-Stefanski doesn't know him really well, and maybe he just doesn't fit what Kevin-Stefanski wants to do right now. And I just think this is one of those positions where if he's still out there and there's no real rush, maybe you're okay losing him if that happens, but you can also slow play this a little bit and just sort of see how the market develops.
Yeah, well, you also have Baker-Mayfield could be his best friend here, and he could suggest that he'd feel more comfortable if he had him. Apparently that hasn't happened yet, or it's happened and the coaching staff says, hang on, we'll make our own decision about this.
Yeah, we're in charge. We're going to make the roster decisions here.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. All right. You got Ratley and Hodge. You mentioned Hodge earlier today. And Ratley's kind of a guy, you heard his name, you forgot he was around, then all of a sudden you'd hear him once in a while. 24 targets for him, 10 for Hodge, 12 receptions for Ratley, and 4 for Hodge, 200 yards and 76, 1 touchdown between the two. Either of those two have a chance.
Again, I think Hodge has a chance just because he can really make it as a special teamer. And I know he's one of the guys that Mike Prefer likes on special teams. So that always gives you an opportunity to maybe get on the field in another position as well if you're needed. Damian Ratley, this is a fast guy. He's got some skill, but he's just never been able to do anything with it. He had a lot of drops last year. The ball ended up on the ground. There were times when he just needed to make a catch, and it didn't happen for this team. He just wasn't very reliable. So he's going to have a lot to prove coming into this year. If he's on that 90-man roster at training camp, he's going to have to earn his spot on this team. I think just because of the special team side of it, Hodge probably has a better chance.
Well, as far as Ratley's concerned, with that resume summary you just gave, I'm not sure that there are too many teams lining up on the phone to get him, or the iPhone to get him.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to really look at the film and say, okay, this is a guy that we absolutely want to get on our roster. I think he's going to have a chance to compete. And again, the physical skills are there. He's really fast. He's got the body of a wide receiver. He looks like an NFL wide receiver, but he's got to start making plays on a consistent basis. Speaking of looking like a player, did you get a good look at Baker-Mayfield and the photos he had in his garage? Everybody commented he looked heavy, but if you look really close, that's his arm that's in the way of his gut. Yeah, I thought it was. I didn't think he looked heavy or anything. We're about 2 months removed from when he was at the Super Bowl, and he had the photos with Saquon Barkley and some other guys, and their six packs, and he definitely didn't look like those guys. I thought he looked like he was in shape in those photos. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not sure I would hang out and have pictures taken with the guys you just mentioned. Even if he's in great shape, he's not going to come off good in that department. And this is what we're left to do. This is the NFL offseason combined with everything going on. We're analyzing. We have to analyze workout photos. This is what it's come to. 216-575. Yeah, but you get to edit them all right. If you don't like what you have, you don't have to send it out. I mean, I'm not that proficient in modern way of doing it, but apparently you don't have to send the picture out. Yeah, you don't have to send the picture out. You don't have to send the workout video out, and you can probably do some Photoshop work if you really wanted to. 216-575-0403. A line is open if you'd like to get in for Dan-Labbe of cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. Talking about Northeast Factory Direct, and Alex, you know about him now. He's been in business 20 years ago. He started it with just one piece of furniture in a garage in Lakewood, and look what he's turned it into. Now he's got locations at East, West, and South. The east side is Euclid, as well as West 140th, and of course the new one that's in Macedonia. He also has northeastfactorydirect.com, and here's his personal cell phone, 216-288-1808 if you want to reach him. You got some question. If you don't like your kitchen, the more time you spend in it, now might be the perfect time for you to get a project started, have it finished very, very soon, and you can have virtual consultation or an in-person appointment with one of their awesome designers. Just call or schedule it online. Northeast Factory Direct, great stuff for a whole lot less. We'll come on back in a moment. Sokolowski's University, and we've been talking about them. They are temporarily shut down, but they'll reopen as soon as they can, so stay tuned for more information about that. We'll take a break. We'll come back in a moment. Dan-Labbe with us. We'll look at Facebook question of the day and the answers. More Sports with Les-Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Get Nature's Stone and never replace your garage flooring again. Your concrete is cracked, uneven, and not safe. Paints and poly coatings don't last, are slippery, and give worthless warranties. Nature's Stone permanently corrects cracked, uneven concrete, eliminates slipping hazards, and is easy to clean. And with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, there are no hidden maintenance costs. Act now and save up to 50% with our volume discount pricing. Must be installed by the end of March. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature's Stone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line, a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Welcome back. More Sports and Les-levine in our 24th consecutive season right here on cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. Don't forget tomorrow night, Dennis Maniloff. On Thursday night, Brian Anderson, former Indian pitcher, and Ken Carman will be here on Monday. Brian Anderson's got a great history. He's been in some of the biggest games ever in the last 25 years or so. He, of course, was the Game 7, pitched the 8th inning, Game 7, Cleveland against the Marlins in that one, which the Indians lost down in Florida. And also the first game after 9/11, when President Bush threw out the first pitch at Yankee Stadium. It was Brian Anderson who was the starting pitcher, Game 3, for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So lots for him to talk about. He's a great guest. And, of course, Ken Carman on Monday. All right, dan-labbe is with us, who's also a great guest. But you're not even a guest anymore. You're part of the family.
I guess. It feels all warm and fuzzy being on here.
Wow. We could have a sleepover if you want. 216-575-0403. We had a Facebook question of the day and answers to that. What sporting event are you looking forward to attending the most? We'll ask you that first, Dan. What are you looking forward to most? Probably from a work standpoint, the opening day for the Browns, right?
You would think that, but again, that's work. I kind of, you look forward to baseball season in the summer, right? When it's warm and you can go and sit out in the sun or, whatever, and just sort of take in a baseball game. It's not real fast paced. It's relaxed. That's kind of the rite of passage in summer. And, that's one of those things I think we're going to start missing here pretty soon.
I told you this could be a baseball town. You've made it unanimous. Let's take a look at what some people said. No, a little more than 3. Glenn Berger, an Indians ball game at Progressive Field. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. I enjoy attending an Indians game the most of any professional sporting event. Aaron Wood says the Akron Rubber Ducks game this year at Canal Park. There's nothing better than a ball game on a warm summer night. Chris Ard says baseball, nothing like hearing the crack of a bat on a warm spring day. Joe English was looking forward to taking my boy to a few father-son tribe games this year. Doesn't have to be the opener or an important game, just baseball, hot dogs, and maybe a bobblehead. Dan Gillespie says springtime, not the same without baseball, a dog, a beer, sunshine, and relaxing while watching a game and a tribe victory. Andy Mees, I was looking forward to attending the tribe's home opener on March 26th. I had tickets for it. Hopefully baseball will be able to resume in 2020, and I'll be able to attend the Indians' first game that they do play. Tim Gebhardt, getting back to a baseball game, be it high school or the tribe. Kevin Quinby, first time in 14 years, I will not be attending one of my son's baseball games. Pretty depressing. Larry Pantages, watching my youngest grandson, Luca, play t-ball. And since he's not yet 2, that means I don't have to go out until 2024. Greg Mees, baseball. I need baseball. I don't think you can say, I'd like to just sit around and watch a football game. You got to be more active into it as opposed to baseball, where you can talk amongst friends. And one of the biggest problems, according to to Manfred, the commissioner, is that baseball is so slow. But if you're at the game, the slower the better, I think.
Yeah, it's in the perfect season. It's the ultimate summertime sport. Whether you're watching on TV or listening on the radio or you're there, it fits the season so perfectly. And I don't know, maybe we're just all being prisoners of the moment right now because we should be going to baseball games. But you just think about summer and sitting at the ballpark. It's you don't feel like you're missing anything when you're at the ballpark because you're already outside. You're watching a game. Like you said, you can talk to people around you and just have a good time.
I've never been to a baseball game and said, boy, the clock shows this is a long game. Sometimes at home it gets that way, but not when you're actually at the game. Did you get a chance to see STO's couple of games they played over the weekend? Boston, the Tony Pena home run game and the Randy Johnson who forgot to look at Kenny Lofton coming from second base. I was drawn by the fact that those games in 1995, that maybe some of the callers can agree or disagree with this. I think we are so inundated with facts and figures and stats and stuff. In that game, they weren't overwhelmed by it. It wasn't like if they said something within 5 seconds, some researcher in the back room comes up with the answer. And I thought that was kind of enjoyable that you didn't have to wait to hear. The only thing, they hadn't invented the what they call the Fox box. They hadn't invented that yet, where it tells you how many strikes and how many outs. But that I'm not sure. To me, it's almost like the fruit basket in when James Naismith invented basketball. I don't know what took them so long to make a hole in the fruit basket, and I'm not sure what took them so long to put up the balls and strikes and outs and what inning they're in baseball.
Oh, yeah, and then you had CBS was replaying some of the NCAA tournament games from, I think they replayed the Duke-Kentucky game for one example, and you'd watch the game and they wouldn't show the score for what felt like, 5 minutes at a time. Yeah. You just kind of had to remember what the score was. You didn't have the time right in front of you the whole time.
Hey, you guys wearing those real short pants. How much time's left in the game? Let's go to BP, who's in Pepper Pike. BP, how are you? Hanging in?
Yep, still alive. Thank God. I hope you guys are doing well, too.
We are.
It's been some unprecedented times. Hopefully we all come out of this okay. That's what I'm praying for. But I hope you're doing well, Les. I really am.
Thank you.
Hope you're doing well. And I did want to mention, you were talking about some of the old games, and I happen to catch, I'm a huge NBA fan, as you know, and I watched for the first time ever, like in its entirety, the Lakers-Knicks Game 7 from 1970 from Madison Square Garden, the NBA Finals. It was fascinating.
I think the game before was when Jerry West hit a three-quarter court shot to win that game, I think.
Well, they didn't show that game. This game was the Game 7, so the decisive game, and I was like I couldn't believe I was not impressed with Wilt Chamberlain at all. He would fling the ball from 10 feet away,
you hadn't
really
seen
unorthodox finger roll. Which
you hadn't seen Wilt before.
Not in an entirety game, and I know that was towards the end of his career, but I was shocked. I really was not impressed with his game at all, and
no touch at all.
And they went to the foul line. He bricked all kinds of foul shots.
Yeah.
But I was really impressed with Walt Frazier. He really won that game and that series for the Knicks. But it was to me, it was amazing to see basketball. That was 50 years ago, but it was just really amazing. And I know there's been some crazy times, but it's been amazing to kind of watch some of these games. They had Michael Jordan scored 69 points against the Cavs. Some of my family members were at that game. They also showed the shot where I was at that game where Jordan hit the shot against the Cavs. But some amazing stuff. I even watched the Indians opening day from Jacobs Field in 1994. You were probably there.
Yeah, and we talked about that Wayne Kirby wins it at the end, and Randy Johnson flirting with a no-hitter at that time with Bob Feller sitting up in the press box.
Yeah, and also Bill Clinton was sitting there in the stands as well.
Right.
As far as I wanted to ask your opinion, do you think this pandemic is the worst thing to happen, basically, and to the world in the last 100 years? More than the Kennedy assassination and bigger than 9/11. What are your thoughts?
I'm not somebody who can make that decision. Although I do have a degree in political science, but that doesn't allow me to make that choice. This is unlike anything we've ever seen, and I don't even want to sit there and sort out what is the worst. It's just horrible for everybody. And when they casually throw out 1 million people could wind up dead when this is all over, or more than that, it's just you get numb to the figures. So but I don't want to classify it. Dan and I don't mind classifying wide receivers and quarterbacks, but I think we'll stay away from that. Well,
you guys have done a great job, and my prediction for the Browns is I think they'll take the left tackle at number 10, and I'd like to see them take a linebacker in the second round. You were going over the linebackers before, and to me, that is not a solid, group of linebackers to go into a season again.
Yeah, and the safeties, the whole day. I like the defensive line I'm all right with, but the rest of it is kind of shaky at this point. But I guarantee you, if the season gets underway when it's supposed to, you'll see different linebackers and defensive backs than you see right now.
And I still think I would take a strong look at Clay Matthews Jr. or whatever his name is, Clay Matthews III, because they need some veterans there. I would like, the fans, just like Larry Nance Jr. has done a great job, pretty good job here for the Cavs. I think there's some value with nostalgia. And also, he's a pretty good player. Clay Matthews had about 8 sacks last year for the Rams. So I wouldn't even mind if they brought in a guy like him and, then drafted a guy in the second round to, bolster the linebackers. What do you think of that?
Well, I'll talk about it with Dan. BP, stay safe. Thanks so much for the call. We appreciate it. Dan, what do you think? I've been pushing for Clay Matthews from a PR standpoint, but more importantly, if he can still play a little bit, I'd rather have him than somebody else maybe with the same ability, just because I know what it would do to the fan base.
So I could be mistaken here. Did Clay Matthews sign somewhere? If he didn't, I'd definitely be a fan of the Browns taking a look at him. But I thought I saw, and I'd have to go look. But I thought maybe I saw that he had agreed to go somewhere. But if he is still a free agent, I would love it for the Browns to take a look at him.
I have not heard that, but we'll check on it. But Clay Matthews, the father, was really one of the most popular Cleveland Browns of all time. He was part of the he played for 17 years, but when he played, the Browns were really good, and he kind of was, I think, other than maybe Minifield and those guys, maybe the defensive backs, Matthews was one of the faces of the franchise.
Oh, yeah, and I think he's still, they honored him and put him in the Ring of Honor this last year when his son was in town with the Rams. And, it was a really great moment. And I think one of the good things the Browns have done is really tried to embrace, that era of the Browns as well. They've always embraced, of course, the Jim Brown era, the Paul Brown era, and all of that. But now they've really done a great job, I think, of Bernie Kosar, Hanford Dixon, Kevin Mack has been around, and of course Clay Matthews, kind of that era of Browns football.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Clay Matthews, I believe, is up there on the Wall of Honor, the only non-Hall of Famer. Is that correct?
Yeah, usually you have to be in the Hall of Fame to get put up there, but the Browns apparently just got tired of waiting, and I know that his daughter has been working tirelessly to try and get him inducted. I know the two Cleveland voters would certainly vote for him if he ever got to that stage. But he's a guy that should be in the Hall of Fame, and they're trying to get him there. But the Browns, I think, do the right thing by putting him up there instead of waiting.
All right, his son, according to all the information we have, still a free agent out there. So
okay,
you and I are in favor of signing him if he can still play, and we're not the judge of that at this point. We have a Facebook question of the day. As you know, we just gave you one. Almost all of the responses, baseball, the one you miss most. We do that each and every day. Also, the voicemail of Truth and Reason. If you can't make it between 6 and 7 p.m. when we do the show live, you can call us and leave a message at 216-200-6650. Call anytime, leave that message. That means we can't argue with you when we put it on the air. More Sports and Les-Levine continues one more time. I think we have some quickies and some other stuff with Dan-Labbe. More Sports and Les-Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Get Nature Stone and never replace your garage flooring again. Your concrete is cracked, uneven, and not safe. Paints and poly coatings don't last, are slippery, and give worthless warranties. Nature Stone permanently corrects cracked, uneven concrete, eliminates slipping hazards, and is easy to clean. And with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, there are no hidden maintenance costs. Act now and save up to 50% with our volume discount pricing. Must be installed by the end of March. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget, Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Tomorrow night, the D-Man, Dennis Maniloff, will be here, and you can follow us from 6 until 7 p.m. Eastern Time live when we do the show, Monday through Thursday, and then the weekend winners with Dave Bacon comes your way on Friday. B.A. Brian Anderson will join us on Thursday. Let's go to the phones. Dan-labbe is with us. We're going to go to Harrisburg, PA. Say hi to George. George, how are you? George, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Are you doing good?
Go ahead.
When you were talking about wide receivers,
Yep.
How about DJ Montgomery? I think they tried to stash him last year because he got hurt. Then he looked good in the preseason. And then as far as any live sports, pretty much at this point, I'd probably take any live sport. And you guys are doing a heck of a job. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you, George. He'll take any sport just to watch it. That goes back to what Doug Marie said the other day. I asked him about, I think you and I talked about this. I asked him how many games you really need to make a baseball season. He says, well, at that point, even if you don't have much, even if you had 40 or 50 games, just to have for the morale of the country to have it back, he thinks the heck with what it means as far as history is concerned. Just get us something that we can watch.
I think that's where everybody's at. And by the way, credit to George for remembering DJ Montgomery. He's right. The Browns put him on IR last year. That's normally a level of player that you would maybe just move on from when he got hurt. But DJ Montgomery did look good in the preseason last year. So, he's a guy that those are the types of guys you're going to look for, too, on top of everybody else. Try and find that kind of diamond in the rough receiver who plays really well in training camp, plays really well in the preseason, and kind of sneaks his way onto the roster. That's a good recall there by George.
Hey, tell me, we didn't talk tonight about Case Keenum and your thoughts about him joining the team. And they're saying all the right things, and I guess the question is, do they really mean it?
I think they do. I think, first of all, you aren't taking this job if you're Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry unless you believe in Baker-Mayfield, because it sure seems like the owners still believe in Baker-Mayfield. So Case Keenum is coming here to be a veteran, to be a backup. Now, it was a 3-year deal, which I found interesting, and Case still believes he can play. I think the one thing we have to kind of caution ourselves with is let's not kind of overrate who Case Keenum is. He's a nice player. He's a good guy to have around in the locker room, but he's also been on multiple teams. He took Minnesota to an NFC championship game, and they didn't re-sign him. Denver gave him big money, and then they moved on from him pretty quickly. So, we don't want to – it's easy sometimes to overrate the backup quarterback, especially when he has a track record and he has had some success. But it's pretty clear there's a line that he's here to be the backup. Now, if Baker Mayfield struggles, that could certainly change because Keenum can come in and play,
right?
Which is part of the reason why you have him.
I think you're absolutely right. You forget he had 2 bad seasons here. 2017 is when he had the good season with Stefanski. And the question is, good question, why he had such a good season that year and Stefanski was so prominent in the offense, why didn't he stay there? It's a legitimate question to ask.
Yeah, I just think it's something, and it's not that Keenum couldn't step in and play if he needed to, but multiple teams have kind of taken shots on him as their starting quarterback even before that year in Minnesota, and he hasn't really been able to stick. So I think he's a good quarterback, like I said, who can play if you need him to, but he's certainly never going to be your long-term plan, and that's not why he was brought here in the first place.
All right, tentatively, and near the end of the month, we have the NFL draft. It'll be totally different than any draft we've seen. Do you expect any activity between now and then as far as the Browns are concerned?
I would expect maybe some small signings, nothing really big. The focus kind of turns now to the draft. I think what a lot of people forget sometimes is the coaching staffs especially, they don't really start on the draft until really the combine kind of kicks it all off for them. So they're going to be kind of getting involved in the draft process. The Browns have to kind of navigate through this world of video calls and not being able to have, the 30 prospects visit their facilities. They have to navigate all of this scouting in this era with the coronavirus. And it's going to be interesting to see how that impacts the drafts. I think that's really going to be the main focus now. I think any signings we see are going to be smaller scale. Again, unless they do decide a guy like Everson Griffin is the guy they want. I wouldn't expect any huge moves between now and the draft.
All right, and from a fan's point of view, you're not going to have the spectacle of the draft, and it was going to be interesting having Las Vegas have it, but they're doing the right thing, toning it down. Have they even said they can't have it in New York, obviously, but have you heard any place it's going to be?
They haven't really given many details. I did see that they're starting to put together sort of the the prospects are going to have involved, how they're going to get them in via video conference or something like that. So it's going to be really strange to watch a draft, especially the NFL of all leagues, which makes this huge deal out of its draft. It's going to be strange to watch it in sort of a muted format, even though it's going to still extend the 3 days, and the NFL will manage to make it a spectacle.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, Dan, we'll try to get you before the draft, but certainly after. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Stay safe, you and your family.
Yeah, you too, and all the viewers out there as well.
Very good, thanks. Dan-labbe, you can read him at cleveland.com and, of course, the Plain Dealer. All right, that'll do it for us. Dennis Maniloff tomorrow night, Brian Anderson on Thursday. Weekend winners with Dave Bacon on Friday. Then Monday it'll be Ken Carman of 92.3 The Fan. Of all the shows I've ever done, this was the most recent.